Socialism is a system that takes from the creative forces within an economy and gives to other people who are not spurred on to be creative. What happens is if you invent something, you don't get any profit from it for you and your family. It's passed on to other people, which is usually the state, controlled by a small hierarchy, elite hierarchy at the top, usually a family group, who then divide all the spoils between themselves and let the people of the land live on potatoes and cabbages. So what happens is the creative forces stop creating things, and then you end up with a backward state that does nothing but gather potatoes and cabbages for themselves, and it doesn't make any effort unless the hierarchy offers a few carrots to certain people, but it doesn't offer it to enough people. It doesn't offer it to the masses. What we live in now in the United Kingdom is a corporate authoritarian state, which is also known as fascism, or even Thatcherism, where people are allowed to create their own wealth, but are taxed through it and are cheated out of their wealth through debt creation products through the Bank of England. The United Kingdom, all of their money comes from the Bank of England, and this is taken out in loans. They pay pennies for every pound coin they mint, and even less for every note they mint, and they loan it to us at face value plus interest, and with that situation, it keeps the country in debt continuously, and to afford to pay for anything ourselves, we have to borrow from them again, and to continue the cycle of debt. And wealth creation, even though it is allowed for the general public, it is only there to pay off this debt, and this continues forever. A true capitalist state would allow for wealth creation at every level, allowing people to grow their own food, to create their own energy, to educate for creativity, to become inventors, designers, engineers, things of value to a society, and farmers. When you take these things away in both socialist and capitalist, capitalist corporate authoritarian systems, then the general populace will always be slaves.
What about like neo-capitalism?
Well, neo-capitalism it's a myth. It is actually corporate authoritarianism. The point is with neo-capitalism is what is Thatcherism. It was created mainly by a man called Milton Friedman, who was the head of the Federal Reserve for a while, and I think he was also the head of the IMF, the World Bank, I mean. And basically, it's a disguised fascism. It too allows for debt creation, and it weakens nations by creating also massive unemployment, and that's why Britain has had over 2 million unemployed people.
So that's for what, neo-capitalism?
Neo-capitalism, yeah. It's not actually... They just give it a title. Most people don't know what an economic structure should really be called. They just assume that we're all living in a capitalist state. But in reality, it's the capitalist state has been replaced by a corporate authoritarian state, which is...
It's just closer to socialism, really. Cause socialism...
No, that's fascism. Fascism is when the corporations and businesses run the nation, and everybody works for them. Even people think of Hitler as a dictator and all that kind of thing, and that would be a dictatorship. But if you look in behind him, he had Hugo Boss designing their uniforms. He had Farben creating all the fluoride and stuff to keep people zombied. Volkswagen was doing all the military vehicles. Everything was run by the actual corporations rather than he wasn't a puppet, he was a leader of that organisation. He wanted it like that. But it was him and his group of mates who were basically the big corporations in Germany, including the Bundesbank. And that's what's happening here. We live for the corporations. That's why David Cameron, which is carrying on Thatcherism, is trying to privatise the NHS. And in fact, that's why the privatisation thing came along. All the steel industry, all the coal industry, the gas, our post office, our telecom offices. It's all been broken down and sold off to corporate people, so that we, as a nation, are continuously enslaved.
For me, it just looks like what you're saying. It's capitalism, right? But it's, to me, it just
looks like capitalism,
a higher form of socialism. Because if the government are controlling what the corporations are doing, if the government are basically taxing everything, that is socialism. But what if you've got if capitalism is a free market where you can just basically live off the profits of what
that's
you do
right.
and all that? But
There's a model of capitalism that most people assume that we're actually living, right? But in actual fact, above it all is debt creation. And everything that people do goes towards paying the debt. And the debt creation can be through your gas, your electricity, your rent, your car, your mortgage. There is nothing that you cannot get in this country without paying for it over the odds. In fact, over the odds. If you go and look at the NHS, when they buy drugs, they pay more than virtually the ability to make it itself. It's just a profit motive. Illness is for profit in these systems. Everything is for corporate profit.
So basically, what we're saying is, though, a constitution protects the people, it's for the people, right?
Yes.
And I remember I saw a documentary by Lord Monckton. It was on Channel 4, it was about 10 years ago, and they actually said that all the political parties actually agreed to stop the British Constitution. And if you ask you go out today in Sheffield and ask anybody in Sheffield, can you talk about the British Constitution? What do you think they'll say?
Most of them won't know. Some will say law.
Yeah.
Some people say that law is the Constitution. And if you actually asked a politician like David Cameron, or who is a corporate lawyer, he will say that as well, because we don't have a written constitution.
Apparently we did, and they actually conspired to actually take it out of the system.
That's
which
right.
was common law, so that's why now we
have got common law through
common law ruling in the courts and all that.
Through the charter, the Henry II's charter of civil liberties, and also the great document, America's
Constitution, American.
What's it? The English thing. What was it called? Magna Carta. The Magna Carta. Those are the two pillars that British society was built on, and they are taking them away. But they were never. Well, they were ratified at that time, but they're seen as old documents. As old documents that don't really mean any much. Nobody's educated.
So in other words, it's just corporations are taking over, and it's another form of. Although they're saying it's capitalism, it's not. It's basically. It's more actually going towards communism, because if you're getting a group of elite families ruling everything, then the first step towards communism is socialism, right?
Well,
and the
with
Communist Manifesto.
with socialism, the ideal is that everybody is in it together, and they've got the choice. They are running their state. The problem is, people end up being too busy going off growing cabbages and potatoes and doing their jobs. They can't run the state, so the state becomes run by a hierarchy, usually the people who promote socialism, and then they fight it out between each other until there's this, a general satisfied line of succession, but they stay within each other. And if you look at China, it starts to go through families that control the party. With what we've got now, we had a monarchy, and we kind of still do, that turned into a corporation a couple of 100 years ago, and everything really is run as corporations. Even the individual, a corporation is set up in your name through the birth certificate.
Capital letters.
That's right, the capital letters. The straw man, and you do business through that. And every document that you get with capital letters is for the straw man, and debts are created through that straw man. The borrowing from the Bank of England is created through the collective straw men of the United Kingdom. If you go to the doctors, your medical cards in capital letters, your live driving license, you even start school, and the way they make money through these organisations, doctors, schools, libraries, all these public things, is through tax. The people are collectively taxed for it, and then it goes through to the corporations as a group. All political parties swear allegiance to the Crown, which is the Crown Corporation, and that's who they are working for. When they get into government, they call themselves Her Majesty's government. It's not our government, it's hers. It belongs to her, as she is the head of the Crown. They all swear allegiance to the Crown, and in fact, if you stood up for Parliament and got into Parliament and didn't swear allegiance to the Crown, you would be thrown out. You'd still be a member of Parliament. They might even try and get a by-election for you, but you'd be thrown out, and they wouldn't listen to you. They wouldn't let you in. But you have to swear allegiance to the Crown, and the Crown is a corporation. All corporations are to create wealth for those who own and run the corporation. That's the whole purpose to it. It's a psychopathic entity that has one purpose only, and that is to create wealth for the owners and the people who become top brass in it, the CEOs, the big workers in there.
So do you see Scottish independence going there?
Well, I don't think Scotland will break the Union. I don't think they will.
What if they do? What do you see actually happening?
Well, with it becoming because you see, within the EU, the United Kingdom has power of veto. Once Scotland leaves, they won't have the power of veto. It would stay with England, and so whatever happened in Europe.
But why would they stay with England again? Remind us why.
Well, because the seat of the Crown is in England. That's where even though she goes up to.
Would they be more connected with the banks and the corporations that are obviously the Bank of England is the main financial bank in the UK, so everything's sort of controlled through that plan, through that. And
there is no.
Obviously, Scotland aren't having a separate currency. That's what they're saying, and
well, they
still have the Crown. So
there is. It's a strange kind of thing. It's not. You could never call it independence.
Yeah.
The amount of independence they have is to choose
so
their own
it
flag.
isn't independence.
It's not independence. No, it's not at all. True independence would mean that because they never joined the European Union, United Kingdom did, so they would have to reapply to join the European Union.
Right.
They would have their own currency, and they would choose their own banks.